Hey listeners, make sure to check out our 2-week free trial for unlimited yoga, breathwork, and Ayurveda on betteryoga.net.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Better Yoga podcast. We have a very special guest today. Josie Schweitzer is here, and Josie is really a one-of-a-kind teacher. She's a Katonah Yoga teacher, and her rendition of the practice is very inventive, fluid, practical, insightful. If you've taken classes with her, you know what I'm talking about. And you take a class with Josie and you just sort of want to be like her friend. Like that's how I felt the first time I took class with her. And you can find her in a lot of places. She leads global yoga programs, workshops, retreats, and has formed really a flourishing, empowered yoga community. Her style of teaching encourages people to really go beyond the physical, take yoga off the mat, and fosters a deeper internal awareness as you operate in the world. So welcome, Josie. Thank you so much for being here on our podcast.
Thank you so much. That is so kind. Yeah, the fact that you said you want to be my friend in class, that's a true compliment, I feel like. So I appreciate that. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Mhm. So we always start off the podcast asking the same question, which is, what does your practice look like these days? Interpret as you may.
Huh. That is such a loaded question for me because I kind of like I started thinking about that word a lot. And I'm like, what is the like, I kind of always like, if I'm writing something, I always refer to something as like the practice. And I think that, we all have such different practices and they change in time. So like right now, I'm just doing a lot of other like physical practices, such as Jiu-Jitsu. And so my yoga practice, if you will, has kind of turned into more of me like, how can I restore? How can I take care of my joints? How can I like use a chair and fold over it, or really be active with more like mobility stuff for my joints, kind of like infusing the yoga mobility world together. And it really it kind of comes in little like snacks. It's not like, okay, every day at this time I do this for this long. I do it so it supports me in what I'm doing for the day. So maybe it's like 5 minutes in the morning doing something, or before I'm training, or after. So it definitely has changed in the last few years, 5 years. So now it's all, I'm just so thankful for Naveen in that way of like just reminding us that like it can be 5 minutes and it can just support what you're doing now, not like, we're not doing yoga to get good at yoga. So it's like supporting life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lifestyle. And I do want to put a pin in the jujitsu
Please.
conversation because I want to ask you about that a little bit later.
Uh-huh.
And something I notice about you is that you have a way of connecting the physical practice with sort of motifs or themes that are happening in your life. And I just wonder how those connections are formed for you. Like, is it physically when you're doing some sort of practice and something comes into your head? Does it take time to digest it after? Like, how does that process work for you? Because you are always articulating yourself and your experience so well and in a way that I think captures people's connection and their resonance. So just wondering how that process works for you.
I appreciate that. I'll just say it mostly happens in like a time of reflection. So I might go for like a walk in nature and like something comes to me, and I love like anytime I have a thought that I don't want to forget, I write it down like in notes in my phone, or I jot it down here. And that's kind of how my like weekly newsletter comes to life. I'll just look at like one word or one quote that I write down, that like something I have to remember, and it kind of all stems from that. Um because when I first started teaching, I think I was like, oh my God, everybody needs to do yoga. This is for everyone. And then I'm like, no, they don't. And it's not for everybody. And not everybody's going to do it, but they can have a practice that bolsters them, that supports them. So I try to write more in the like, you can put whatever you're doing into this thing that I'm saying, and not this like in your face physical yoga practice that like works for me and you, but it's not going to work for everybody.
Totally. It's not helpful to pigeonhole or define something so
Yeah.
narrowly that other people can't benefit from it.
Only
I
because it's like they just might never want to do it. Even though, yeah, like it'll be good for you, but that might
I,
never happen.
I popped on a YouTube video. It was a Call Your Daddy podcast episode. She was interviewing Lauren Graham. She's Lorelai on Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And the question was like, what's like the least Los Angeles thing about you?
Mhm.
And she's like, honestly, it's that I fucking hate yoga and I don't like to do yoga. And so they just went on this back and forth like, oh my God, yeah, it's the worst. And hot yoga, even the worst. And it was so interesting to have that moment and be like, that's right. I live in such a bubble. People don't like to do this. People really can't stand this. And that's okay.
Exactly. It's funny, I just literally over the past like couple years, I started taking a heated HPF, which is like hot power fusion, but it's like a Bikram sequence kind of thing because there's no chaturangas. And I live in Denver now. It's really fucking cold in the winter. So I just found that like that, because I know how to modify so much and I know my own alignment and I don't need to hear the, whatever the cues, it's actually been really nice. But if I go too much or if I go in times that it's already hot, like my pit, it's like, well, that's doing the opposite of good. So
Totally. I was in New York in February. And normally when I'm in New York, of course, I go to the studio, but I woke up super early and there's no class at like
yeah.
6 or 7 a.m. there. So I'm like, okay, like let me Google Maps a yoga studio near me. And so I found, I'm like, okay, great. So I sign up online and I get there. I walk in the room, is literally like 99 degrees. And you know, I didn't want to walk out. I didn't want to not commit. So I did that. And fortunately, as you mentioned, like having a sense of your own practice and being able to tailor or dilute or modify is such a blessing, because it's like once you have a practice that gives you awareness of who you are in the moment, how your body is generally, what your habits are, like I feel like I could go to almost any physical
Exactly.
fitness situation and make it at least fun.
Totally. Like you can get something out of it, And you might be
Yeah.
planning your exit in your mind the whole time, but you can still like, you know.
I was broiling. I felt like I was in my oven.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a good look.
And like remind yourself not to do that again. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they walked around with those cold towels at the end. I was like, I think I believe in God. Anyways. Okay. Moving on. So you've let it slip a couple times that you used to do hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I would love to hear about your transition out of that industry, out of that practice, and into your current one, what
Mm.
that looks like.
Well, it's funny because I kind of like accidentally started doing hair. I in high school went to a an art school half day just for photography, so I really thought I was going to go to CCAD, Columbus College of Art and Design, but it was one of these things that I I liked to have fun. I liked to party. I wasn't, taking things all that seriously in terms of like I didn't even know if I would show up to class kind of thing. So I decided like a couple weeks before I graduated that instead of enrolling in the fall, I would go to hair school. And I was like, well, if I hate it, I can still start school in the fall. So I started like a couple weeks out of high school and ended up loving it because it was like this artistic thing. Um, I kind of, I grew up in a town that like, I don't think anyone else I graduated with went to hair school. Like there was a lot of like Ivy League college people. Okay. So it was very much like, I felt a little like, oh my God, it was like, I'm not, what am I doing? But it ended up being great for me. And I went on to do hair for 10 years, but in the transition, I had so many friends, I had so many clients. So I was like you're constantly like getting the tea on everything. All my family members, I knew all the drama. I knew like who was having an affair. Like I knew everything, like to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't want to know this much anymore. But my clients would come and, they would, when Lululemon first started, its like first pop-up before it was even a store, what they would go into like communities and do a little pop-up store to see if the market was good. So they came to Columbus, and a few of my clients started working at the store. And then back then they could like take people to classes for free. They could like bring anyone that worked there could bring someone to like a class at some studio. They had this whole thing where like Lululemon paid them to work out. And so I would go to all these classes, and I ended up doing a lot of like the physical style of yoga. And I just fell in love with it. And then I owned my own salon. So I was able to kind of close out my books, and I went to Costa Rica. I did a teacher training, and in that moment I was like, "Oh, I want to do this. This is what I want to do with my life." But I kind of saw past the like, I want to just like teach one class. I'm kind of like an all-in kind of person. Like, okay, I was like, I want to like lead teacher trainings. I want to own a studio. And so that's what I did. I took my second 100-hour, the way that it was, they like split it up into 200-hour modules. The second one was in Tulum, Mexico. And it was there walking on the beach that I was like, I'm opening up a studio when I get home. That's just what I have to do. And so I would literally go on runs and like run past, it was in Short North, which is like a neighborhood in Columbus where I wanted to open them. And I would run past like a window that said like for lease. I would call, I would inquire about the rent. And I just eventually found this space, and I was like, I'm going to do it. So I think I had been teaching like 9 months before I opened up my first studio. And it felt insane, and then I felt like I couldn't not do it. So I did. And then I actually did hair because I didn't have any help. I didn't have like someone that was backing me. There was no financial support. It was all me. So I kept doing hair, and I would just like do 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 1 day a week, and eventually I stopped after like 6 months. So that's the story on that.
Wow. What a transition. I very much resonate in the, like, I'm not dipping a toe in, I'm jumping in head first kind of mentality. And
Yeah.
for me, at least, in times when I've started something new and decided to go full on into it, it's been accompanied with a little bit of imposter syndrome. Does that ever happen to you, or did you experience anything
Never.
like
Of
that?
course. I mean, I was 28 years old, and everyone else in town that opened like at the time that had a studio. I think nowadays it's way more like, oh, and whatever. Everybody has a studio. Um, it was just like in my mind, I was like, "Oh my god, people are just gonna think, who does she think she is?" But I was like, that other voice in me was just louder than that, and I'm pretty good at, like, shutting it down, and it's not that I'm like this, I don't care what people think kind of person. I just don't let other people's opinions stop me from doing the things I know, like, I inherently just need to do. So but that came with, like, a lot of, like, I went to therapy, I have good friends, and my oldest sister is like a mentor to me, and I would call her all the time. You know what I mean? So it came with having a lot of other practices outside of the yoga practice just to like bolster me in that. Um, it's so easy to talk yourself out of doing the thing. I also am not this, I think that I'm kind of a crazy kind of person, and I wouldn't recommend this to everyone. I wouldn't say, yeah, quit your job, do this. It's like, I'm not leap and the net will catch you kind of thing. I'm like, make a plan, show up to your commitments, and like the ground is there. It's beneath you. Like you can build that momentum, move forward. That doesn't mean quit your job. It means like maybe you have to keep it for 6 months until now you're in a place where you don't need it anymore. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you tell yourself when the imposter voice creeps in? Okay. What's that internal conversation like?
Mm. I don't think I have this like internal conversation. I think that I know that by way of movement, I get over things quickly. I just thought this today when I trained. I was kind of having like a little moment and I went and trained jujitsu and afterwards I was like, LOL, I all I need to do is sweat sometimes and the shit doesn't matter. I That's why I'm attracted to a lot of like physical things. I was kind of reminded of this. Someone was like, "Oh, you must like physical touch must be one of your like love languages because you used to do hair and you're doing like pottery." I just took this pottery class last month. And, like jujitsu and when you assist people, you're touching people. And I was like, "Oh, I guess you're right. I am a very like gotta get my hands in it kind of person. I gotta just do something to move through it."
Yeah, a tactile expression. A quick note on the pottery thing. I think it's
Yeah.
awesome that you started that. I was a very avid and serious potter
Real.
for all throughout high school and college.
And it's funny, I found it. I was on a walk and it was just like a really cool flyer, and the place is right next door to me. So I was like, well, I have to do this. And it was amazing. And at the same time, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do pottery, but it cracked open. I'm like, I don't think that's my thing. Um, but it cracked open this like I was like, "Oh my God, like I am an artist." Like, don't forget, like there's all these ways to do that that don't have to come through in the work, you know? So it was just good to do something for the sake of creating. And it's reminding me of like how much I love photography and just like creating for the creation's sake instead of like I'm creating for my brand, I'm creating for this, which gets just muddy. So it was a really nice like reset of like, wait, you can still be creative in a different way.
I think it's so important to
Yeah.
do what you just said is like create for creativity's sake. I come from a family of artists. My husband went to theater school. Like everybody around me is really good at some form of creative expression. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm like super tactical, super logical, but do my best with the art. That being said, a book that has really impacted how I think about my relationship to art is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
The Artist's
Yeah,
Way.
okay.
Morning
Amazing. So
pages
morning
for
pages. And I still to this day, like, love to take myself on artist dates, and it's just something that fills my cup so much because it's such an open-ended prompt. Like, I can go to a garden and look at a garden. I can go to a pottery class and, make some pottery, and just setting aside time for to let go of the outcome, to, like, be
Mhm.
very much just doing this for the sake of doing this, whatever comes out of it, and it's been such a solace and kind of important thing. Like, it's like I feel like a gift I'm giving myself every time I do my little artist date.
Totally, and for those people that don't know, it's a 12-week kind of self-guided course that she does, and, I was just talking to someone about this because they're currently doing it, someone that was just in mentorship with me for Katonah, and she was kind of asking about, like, "What did you do for the artist date?" And it's like, it's just the intentionality behind something. That's what makes it so like, "Oh, this is" it's like, "Well, you just went for a walk." It's like, "No, but I was on my own artist date." So you get like your mind works kind of a little differently. So in that, I just went off Instagram for a whole month, which I had never done before. And that seems silly, but um it was so nice and I'm realizing I'm like I have really good boundaries with my phone. Like I log off Instagram at night. I don't doom scroll at night. I do my own thing in the morning before I log back into it, but it revealed a lot of things that I was like, "Oh, I'm using it way more than I realized I needed to, and I'm taking in way more than I need to." That's like taking up my own thoughts. It's like you can only take in so much. And so it was just
Yes.
to have that like output of like, what do I actually want? And I'm just even just being back on for this first week, I'm like, I have to like really step away from that thing for like days at a time, I think. So it's just, I'm kind of trying to understand how I want to go about doing that because at the same time, it's the way that I, stay in contact with so many people through what I do and I promote and all these things. And I do get inspired as well. So it's like, I'm not like, oh, this is such a trash thing. It's just like the intentionality behind it is what I was getting to.
I want to go back to Katonah. A lot of people will know you from the Katonah Yoga world.
Mm.
And so I've heard about your introduction to yoga in general, but I'd love to hear more about your introduction to Katonah Yoga and emerging more into that
Yeah.
practice. Definitely a nebulous thing, define as you may.
Yeah. Oddly enough, so I had already opened up my first yoga studio, and I was very much in the like power yoga, vinyasa, very like handstands, uh arm balances, like that kind of stuff like really lit me up. Um but I just was like, okay, I want to like know more about this yoga thing, like the theory of it all. And so I was living in Columbus, Ohio at the time. There was no I also knew, backtrack, that I wanted to lead a 200-hour training, and through Yoga Alliance, you have to have gone through a 500-hour training to then get a school and be able to lead those. So I was like, okay, I know I want to do a 500, not only to learn, but to like create my own school. I didn't want to just like take one just for the sake of like checking it off to be like, okay, I guess I can make my own school. So I ended up this was when Yoga Works was like the place to be in New York, okay? Like 2013. And I was like, I'm doing it. So my studio was up and running. I was like, I can take care of things on the back end. I had a good friend that had a 2-bedroom in Brooklyn. So she was like, just move in with me for 6 months, pay me rent. It really worked out great. So it was a 6-month training. I went, and before I left, one of my friends from hair, she had a really good friend that did hair in the city. And she was like, he told me to tell you that you need to go to this place called Katonah Yoga. I never met this guy, by the way. And I was like, okay. And so I went, and I had moved to New York. I was like starting my training that week, and I took class at the old Chelsea studio. Didn't know anyone. I was very much like, I was intimidated. It takes a lot for me to get intimidated by that kind of stuff. I was like, where am I? I'm like, this is too cool for me. And I went and I took a class with Abby, and I think Elena Brower was there, who I had like already known and like thought very highly of. She was like one of the first like kind of celebrity yoga people back then. And I'm in this room, and it's like full. And by the time class ended, I was like, what just happened? First of all, I didn't do a single handstand or hop to the top of the mat or bleepity blah blah. But I'm like, I am so curious, and like my imagination and my just like curiosity was so piqued after that, and I was just like, I need to know more. So as I'm in this 6-month training that was literally like a full-time job at the time, I had to take so many classes at Yoga Works. I had to be there every weekend. I had to I was going to that studio as much as I possibly could. I was like, I don't know what this thing is, but I have to know more about it. So that's just kind of what happened. And I found Philip Askew that was teaching there at the time, but he was very much like weaving in the material to a very rigorous vinyasa practice, which at the time really drew me in. So I kind of got the best of my both worlds of like a very arduous vinyasa class meets the theory and breath work of Katonah yoga. And that was like, ooh. And so I did a lot with him and his wife, Ivy. Um, and then eventually I met Naveen, and that changed everything. And she was like, you need to meet Daegis. And then I did a training with Daegis, and that changed a lot of how I looked at the practice. I eventually went on to sell my yoga studio because I was no longer a vinyasa yoga teacher, and that's like what I had created. And it just took over me, Like, at first you would sneak things in, but eventually I was like, I have to, I don't even know what I'm teaching anymore, but I have to teach this way because I don't believe in this stuff anymore for like me teaching it. I can only do so much. And I was just like, I know how to throw a good party. I know how to fill a class. I know how to put on good music and get people to come. But I was like, I don't care anymore. Like, I have to teach what's true to me. And that's just what happened. So I just kind of transitioned into over time, but like kind of quickly into, okay, now I teach Katonah yoga.
Thank God.
Thank
Because
God.
You were one of my first Katonah mentors in the mentorship way back in the pandemic.
Gosh, what
And
year was that? Do
I
you
think it
remember?
was 2020.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank goodness,
Yeah.
because I'm so glad you're
Well,
here.
and what I love so much is like this constant reminder of like, I can say, yeah, I teach Katonah, but like at the end of the day, we all teach so differently. And I get like now I'm kind of moving into like wanting to teach a little more like mobility in my classes. So it's like what really kind of holds it together is all of the like the theory and the measure and the angles, like all these things that kind of you can put into any other practice. So I still think everything I do is Katonah yoga, but it's not, but it is. If that makes
Totally. I mean, Katonah is like the the one style of yoga you can't really give an elevator pitch for that does it justice. And it's both the beautiful and frustrating thing. And I think the way I personally describe Katonah yoga depends on who's in front of me,
Oh yeah, it
because
depends on my mood. It depends on everything that's going on. I will say I kind of found that it's kind of the same for anything. Like I can't explain what jujitsu is to someone that doesn't know it. Like you could whatever. It's like you really have to like just be there and do it to know what I'm talking about.
so something unique about Katonah yoga in comparison with other
Yep.
styles of hatha yoga is its use of language and
Sure.
imagery. It's a very distinct part of the practice. Is there a particular metaphor that's resonating with you right now?
Good question. I think just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I don't even know if that came from Katona, to be honest. But that's kind of something I'm telling myself a lot lately is like, because you get to a point where you're like, okay, now I have options. Well, maybe it's third nature, you know, it's like we come here with something we learn and then, you know, third nature is what do you do with it? So you know, at the same time that options can make us powerful, they can also drive us crazy. It's like too many options and you're like, "Oh, I don't know. Where do you want to go?" It's like, "Well, just tell me where we're going to go to dinner, okay?" So I'm kind of at this place of like really trying to listen and like, okay, am I doing that because I can or am I doing it because I truly genuinely want to? And like sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do along the way, sure. But I've just kind of been like really going through my life, my offerings, how I spend my time with like a fine-tooth comb over the last few years, um which is like scary and not easy and exciting and all the things all at once, you know?
This episode of the Better Yoga Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Banyan Botanicals. Use the code KARI15 for 15% off their amazing Ayurvedic products. That's KARI 15. Don't forget to use the link in our show notes. And our friends at Vibrant Health. Use the code BETTER_yoga for 20% off your next purchase of supplements and superfoods at vibranthealth.com.
Yeah. I feel like there's a point when maybe you're newer to teaching yoga and it's just like, yes, 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 I can teach that. Yes, I can teach
Mhm.
that. I can be there at this time. I can do that. 5 classes back to back. Yes, yes, yes. And
Totally.
then, you get to, well, if you're lucky or not lucky, but if you put in the work and you have a little luck on your side, you get to the point where you get to be selective. When I think about you and your teaching, it's really something that comes to mind is your community building skills
Mm.
and of course the creativity of your classes, but sort of that combination of the the distinct nature of your classes, but also the feeling like even on a Zoom class that there are 100 people in the room. I just wonder about how has building a robust community shaped your practice?
Well, first of all, thank you. Um second of all, I really like people to be seen, and sometimes they don't want to be seen. So you got to meet them where they're at and you have to, you know, it's like I think the underpinning of kind of why I started teaching yoga was because I saw that people had all these like superpowers that they were sleeping on, and I heard it through people talking to me about hair. And I was always like, my mom could never remember my friends' names because she's like, you have too many fucking friends. And I'm like, sorry. It's because like, I really was in like, okay, I'm cool with these people and this, and I'm going to this party this night and here. So I've always been into connecting people in that way. I'm like, oh, well, you should know about so and so because you'll be able to like work together. So for me, I love people to like be seen and be able to like own their own voice, whatever that is, whatever thing, and not just like in teaching yoga, but in life. And so that's kind of always been my approach. And it's like it or not, like you're not going to come to my class and I'm not going to not see you in the back corner. Like you can't just hide from me. So I think that was another reason why like eventually, having everybody face each other, I'm like, I don't care if people like are going to be like, oh, I don't like that anymore. It's like, well, if you don't, you can go somewhere else because there's plenty of yoga teachers. Or if you trust me enough, you'll come along for the ride. And so, and in the same way I teach a Zoom, like I'm sitting up there, like literally staring because I'm looking at people because I don't need to just like do the practice and have people look at me and not connect. That's not exciting for me. And that doesn't mean that that doesn't work in other places. Like I can go and take a Pilates class. They do the class the whole time. They don't touch me. I'm not being seen, but I still get a lot out of it. So like I kind of just like chose to be like, okay, like it or not, like you can't hide. And I'm going to try to bring something out of you in a sneaky way. Um, and maybe eventually in a not so sneaky way. And so I don't know, that's just like that bolsters me. Like when I get texts from people, like I do like a lot, like, hey, I actually I connected with so and so you told me about, and we went out to dinner and we talked about this, or like like all these messages I get from people saying they've connected or they did the thing, like that lights me up. That's why I do what I do.
Hmm. Do you ever not feel like teaching and have to teach?
Oh, sure. Um I mean, it is like anymore, I'll tell you what, it is kind of rare because again, I've set up the conditions where I'm not teaching 50,000 classes a week. Like I really have good boundaries on like I'm pretty good at being like, okay, it's time to like give that class up or you know what I mean? Like teach at a different time. Like I decided after a few years, like I'm not teaching 6 a.m.s anymore. Yeah, I had like full 6 a.m. class. I'm not teaching past 6 p.m. anymore. Like I'm very, I know that at a certain point, like, like Naveen says, like bitterness is the ultimate defeat in life. I don't want to just show up to something. If I overhear teachers bitching about this and that's like, why are you here? Like I'll go to a yoga studio and I'll hear people literally bitching. I'm like, okay, well, we got to do something about this because nothing's going to change if you're just going to stay here. So for me, I kind of have to listen to those like, it's time to change course. It's time to just go down to teaching a few classes. This is where I'm tapped out on privates. This is how many offerings I can hold at one time. So, but like at the same time, when I do have those days where you're just like, it's like as soon as I get there, I don't know. I have fewer and far between days where I'm like showing up and not wanting to teach, if that makes sense. But I was, if I was teaching like 15 classes a week, I'd be like, "Oh my God."
No, it defeats the purpose of the practice sometimes. If teaching that much, a lot of people have to sacrifice time for their own practice and, you know, don't trust a teacher who doesn't have their own practice. Not
I
necessarily
started
on the mat, but like that's
yeah,
making time for themselves.
I started to like not put so much pressure on like the yoga practice, right? It's like
Yeah.
that's not going to feed me in all the ways, so I need to make sure I'm doing the other things like taking a random pottery class, like going out to dinner with a friend, like going to the sauna. Like I just have to know that I'm in more of a balanced like I'm going out, I'm staying in. I'm doing this, I'm not doing this. I'm saying yes, I'm saying no because otherwise yeah.
Absolutely. I am somebody who enjoys going to the gym. It's like a playground for me.
Yeah.
There's so many toys to play with, so much fun. And And I get super inspired, like talking on Instagram, I'll see people doing awesome shit with kettlebells and
Mhm.
mobility stuff. And I'm like, I want to go play in the gym now. And I think the biggest gift is that my practice happens in so many places. And because I have that
Mhm.
foundation, like I'm doing other kinds of exercise with an awareness that I wouldn't necessarily be otherwise if I didn't have yoga, and it just makes them all the better. Like lately I love going to spin. The opposite of doing yoga. It's
Yeah.
closing down the whole front body, but I love it. It's so much fun for me. And I never feel crappy after my body because I know what to do.
And like, yeah, at first you follow the recipe and then eventually you're like, okay, I own this. Now I can riff off of it. Now I can do other things.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Speaking of other embodied practices, I do want to pick your brain about BJJ. It's
Yeah.
something I have no personal experience in. I have a lot of friends who love it, who do it, and I can imagine yoga has weaved its way into that practice, and that practice weaves its way into yoga. I'm wondering if you can speak to some specific ways those things braid together for you.
Yeah. I'll say, how do you know somebody trains jujitsu? Do you know? Do you know the answer to that?
They post about it on Instagram?
Tell you. They talk about it and tell you. So, yeah, of course, things bleed into each other. It's a martial art. So I think, sometimes people will be like, oh, yeah, that's not really like, it's literally called the gentle art, which it's funny because it's not gentle at all. But, I think it's more the teachings and the philosophy. Like every day we line up after class and like your belt ranking. So from lowest to highest, and you kind of pay homage to your coach, your professor, whatever you call them. And usually they say something, like a thought where I train my coach, he'll say things that are very like of the time. So it's just very relatable. And it just, I'm always like, oh, like that's something I literally think about in my teaching, or like, oh, that's really cool. Let me think about that and incorporate this. But um so because it's kind of doing literally the opposite in terms of like measuring and making sure you're set up. It's like you're off measure, you're not set up, you're getting like people are trying to break your joints, you're trying to break somebody's arm, you're trying to choke somebody out, you're trying to break a knee, a foot, whatever. Like that's, the way you submit someone. So it's really the opposite, but like the underpinning of like martial arts in general is this like philosophy behind it. It's the you can train with your partner, you're both trying to kill each other, and then afterwards you have this like, okay, we shake hands, it's like slap bump, okay, we did that, we respect each other, it's such like and you're very much in like close contact, so it really makes you have to communicate good, you have to advocate for yourself, you have to tap when it's time, so I think it's like communication and boundaries and all these things like show up just in a very different way, which is fun for me because it's like so opposite of what I've been doing for so many years. So it's like piqued my interest and my um curiosity in learning so much that it just excites me. Like every day I go to train, I'm so excited to go and learn.
What's it like to compete?
Yeah, so I actually when I first started, so I've been training for like just over 3 years, and when I first started, I just remember being in the locker room with these girls and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'll never compete. That's insane." Like I just thought it was like crazy. And then like 6 months in I did my first competition, but that first one I thought I was going to like come out of my body. Like I was so nervous, I was so scared. My mouth was so dry. I thought like when I first went on to the mat where like all these people were fucking there watching you, I'm like, "Ew, what is going on?" I was terrified, and then it got, it's like, "Okay, I did that." And you still get nervous, like, and it just depends on if it's like a bigger competition. I don't compete like crazy a lot, but I compete a decent amount. Like some people I train with, they're literally all they do, like they're professional, all they do is compete. Like and then there's people that never compete and they're hobbyists, and I'm a hobbyist. I just happen to compete sometimes. But no, it like gets better. Like you get more confident. this last competition I had, it was the best I ever felt going into it. I had fun. I wasn't like, I didn't let it it didn't derail me before. I don't know. So I think it all comes down to like things happen in time. Like we say in Katonah, like everything happens in time, and it's really cool to like kind of experience that too. It's like, yeah, you're nervous, but it's not the same kind of nervous, and it becomes more enjoyable.
When you're nervous, when your mouth's dry, do you have anything you do in particular to self-soothe, or you just kind of go in with that energy?
Oh, I have like a whole thing. Like it's funny. Some people, there's these things that like there's these mats that are set up where you compete, so you can like um be with a training partner before your competition and kind of warm up by like doing jujitsu. And I'm like, you know what? That makes me more nervous. So what I was like, this competition, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna like go do stairs. We're in this building that had a bunch of stairs. So I like bring my big headphones and I turn the world out and I turn my music on and I don't talk to people. And I do like I did stairs and then I didn't even warm up in a jujitsu way at all, and I like did the best that I've ever done. So it was just a reminder of like listen to what you need, because it's not always going to be this like obvious thing. And then I have my own like breath techniques. So some competitions you have to like go into the bullpen and you might be in there for like a half hour waiting and you're just sitting there like, and so then we do box breathing and you know things that I'm not like sitting there looking like I'm meditating or something, but like sneakily I'm taking care of my nervous system.
Yeah, like that the Olympic gymnast became a meme. He's, like, waiting 12 hours to do his routine. He's just, like, sitting there with his eyes closed meditating. I was like, "This is the best promo for
Like
meditation
professional
you can get."
athlete. Yeah, it's crazy. So it's
I
cool to be able to have that like at my age, in something that I just started not too long ago, like this real like passion for something that lets me do that. So yeah, I'm thankful to have found it.
I think it's very helpful, and I think a lot of people could benefit from what you just said. You're doing stairs, like, when you're a little bit nervous, you're upregulated, like, getting any way to get into your body, out of your head, breath work, stairs, sparring, like, whatever it is, I think it's really the antidote to anything the world throws your way, because everything happens in your body, and it's where everything's processed, and I wouldn't be able to just sit there sitting still. Like, I resonate. I think through movement.
Mm.
I think through moving my body, because I don't trust my head all the time, but I trust my body a lot.
And I think what it all comes down to is like it's the technique. It's like it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Like this whole woo way, like effortless effort, can we like eventually realize that we don't have to be so effortful in our efforts and do make effort to get what we want rather than just for effort's sake. But like technique is the big thing. So it's just like in jujitsu, martial arts, you're trying to get to a black belt eventually. Well, that's just like a white belt that never quit. Like they just got more technical. They learned better skills. It's the same thing with yoga. It's like, okay, can you show up to something for long enough that you're going to have good technique and be able to, then you own that and then do something like Naveen's always like, then do something else. Like
Yeah.
learn something, get really good at it, and then like do something else so that you're
10
not
is 10
autopilot.
is one in a higher dimension, as they say. Okay, a few rapid fire
I
questions.
love this.
All right. Last book you read.
Ooh, Joan Didion. Oh, The Year of Magical Thinking. And I could not, I like loved it. Now I'm in like the middle of another book, but that one I was like sad that it ended.
I
It was
know
really
those kind of books. All right. What are you currently watching, if anything?
good. Okay, I am watching 1923. I'm making it a point to like see each episode that's come out. I'm a big Taylor Sheridan fan, so all of his shows I've watched. Like, have you watched those? Yellowstone.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
He's done like Yellowstone, 1923, 1883. Uh, there's so many shows. Yeah. So 1923 is my
I'll put it on my queue.
gotta watch that every week.
What's the best thing you've eaten recently?
Oh god. I actually love this restaurant that is like a block away from me, Uchi. It's sushi, but it's like the best I've ever had, and I'm actually going there tonight with a friend.
I mean, sushi is the best. Who should we interview next?
Ooh, Dejis. Have you interviewed Dejis?
Have not.
I love hearing what she has to say.
Cool. All right. And then we always end our podcast with the same question. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
I'd be like an artistic director on photo shoots.
I love how quickly you knew that.
'Cause,
Amazing.
yeah, totally 1000%. Maybe that's my next career move.
I'm here for it.
Hey.
I'll interview you again.
Yeah, in 2 years, I'll be like, well, when I was a yoga teacher. No.
Well, for all of our sakes, I hope you keep teaching yoga at least for a little bit more.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Tiger. This was such a treat. So good to see your face. And I can't believe it's been like, what, 5 years since we met. It seems
I know, forever and also not enough.
like yesterday, but forever ago. It's weird.
Well, hope to see you in person sooner than later. And
Absolutely.
thank you for coming on the podcast. Hope to have you again.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. Don't forget to check out our 2-week free trial for unlimited yoga, breathwork, and Ayurveda on betteryoga.net.